recently on the Wayspotters podcast, you heard my dad say...
Oh, that's great. That's amazing. I love that. And that's kind of the synthesis of machine learning. The machine is, oh my goodness. All right, we're gonna clip that. You might hear that like over and over. I am going to clip that and put, yeah, that's clipped. Clip. Hello, agents, trainers, keepers, pilots, eighth-wallers, and our beloved explorers and wayfinders. Welcome to episode number 137 of the Wayspotters podcast. And yes, in that intro, I was way more excited than I probably needed to be. But when Chris finds something that is like groundbreaking and transformative, I get excited. Here at the Wayspotters podcast, we want to do everything we can to help you become a better wayfinder. As we have always said, we want to do three things. We want to educate, we want to entertain, and we want to excite. Wayspotters is brought to you by the good people at the Pokémon Professor Network, and today is August the 30th, 2024. I'm Blame Jamal, and I'm here with my main man, Chris. What's up, guy? How you doing?
I'm good, buddy. How are you doing?
I can't believe it's almost September. I remember a month ago we were saying I can't believe it's almost August, and now it's almost September.
Years just flying by.
I know. September is staring us in the face, and fall is almost here. My kids have gone back to school, and I believe yours have as well.
Yep. My kids have been back to school for almost a month now.
Oh, man, that's right. You get started early. Yeah.
Yep.
That's why this episode is titled Back to School. If you guys are watching us or listening to us, you'll see it's called Back to School. Oh, by the way, you're probably watching this episode on YouTube. I have a new computer now, so I look good and I can actually function, and there's no smoke coming out of the back of the machine. So, Chris, now whenever you start a brand new school year, you have to learn new stuff, right?
Yes, sir.
However, when you're learning new stuff, you want to make sure that you go back and review your basics from last year. So that's what we are going to do here today, but not before we get into the news.
And now, the latest Niantic news from the Wayspotters podcast, presented by the Pokémon Professor Network.
Okay, two news items this week. Both of them are pretty game specific, but they're Wayfarer adjacent. So last week we talked about the updated Pokestop issues page, and almost immediately Niantic Aaron replied to one of the comments on the forum saying use unsafe access for anything that blocks emergency services. They've gotten rid of blocks emergency services. They want us to use unsafe access, which I don't necessarily, I mean, that's not very intuitive, but it is what it is, right? So
right.
I just thought it was funny that as soon as we finished recording, I went into the forums and I was like, and there's the answer.
There's the answer.
Which is typical of Niantic, and I'm sure they don't do it on purpose.
They tapped into our live feed somehow, and we're like watching us record. They're like, oh, they just hit stop. Let's put it out there now.
Ingress agents report that Foursquare imported portals have been removed from India, Turkey, Poland, Mexico, Thailand, and the Philippines. We talked about them saying that they were going to do it in Turkey, but apparently they've done it in a bunch of other questions too. So they're saying that this is just removed from Ingress. This is not removed from the Lightship database. So if you try and go and resubmit this portal, it's going to get marked as a duplicate.
Right.
The proper way is to contact the Niantic team and update the picture.
Right.
And then that new picture will hopefully flow into Ingress, and then that portal will get resynced because it'll have a photo. Or the Ingress team can kind of push it back to the map now that it's got a photo. So
Foursquare has been a problem since they brought it over. It's never been good on Foursquare. It just continues to make problems. Cool.
That's one of those things that looks good on paper that when they implemented it, people were just like, this is ooh.
Yeah, they're like, not really sure what you're doing here.
No.
Right on. Oh, one other thing, a bit of news. A lot of you, if you're watching this or listening to this podcast, you probably know of Pokédaxy. So when we had him on show 131, he made a promise that he was going to do a video on Wayfarer, and he did. It launched just a couple days ago. So go to YouTube and search up Pokédaxy and look at one of his most recent videos, and you will see he did a whole thing on Wayfarer. It was pretty cool. I watched it. I had like 8 people tag me. Daxy's video just dropped. So I went over and watched it. So it was cool. So just thought I'd mention that here.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep. Friend of the show, Pokédaxy.
Friend of the show, Pokédaxy.
Friend of the show, Pokédaxy. All right, Chris, you ready to get into some back to school stuff?
Yes, sir.
And we are going to do this in a countdown style, like 10 to 1. So let's get our intro for our new section.
This is Sarah Amanda. Get ready for topic number 1.
All right. So topic number 1, and the way I like to say this is David Letterman has nothing on us. So we are going to do our Wayfarer countdown, and let's get started. I'll kick it off, Chris.
Cool.
Number 10.
So number 10. In our top 10 things for back to school for Wayfarer. So number 10 is keep up to date with changes in guidelines. So Niantic occasionally updates its guidelines and criteria for Wayspots based on community feedback and evolving needs within their games. Staying informed about these changes will help you make better nominations moving forward. So we always like to say, just because you see it on the map does not mean it is currently eligible. We talked about Foursquare. We talked about things with no picture. There was a time back in the day when it was just Ingress only where you could get pretty much anything through. Niantic has not gone back and removed those things because they don't meet the criteria for removal, but they don't meet the criteria for new acceptance. So make sure you keep up to date as to what's going on. Keep track of the forum. We're going to get into some of these things are going to layer on top of each other, but always make sure that you keep track of all the different types of socials when it comes to Niantic as to what is currently eligible and what's currently going through. But keeping up to date with changes in the guidelines is always going to help you. So that's our number 10 tip. It's
wild to me. It's wild to me sometimes when Ingress people get all uppity about Pogo players with the stuff. Right. And I'm like, have you looked at the stuff that got through in Ingress in the early days? Come on now.
Yeah.
Come on now.
The early days of Ingress when you didn't need any supplemental information or a supporting photo. And there's so many dashboard churches. Like, come on, Ingress agents. Let's be real.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's go to number 9.
Number 9.
Engage with the community for feedback. Joining forums or Discord groups dedicated to Wayfarer can provide valuable insights from experienced members of the community who can offer feedback on your nominations before you submit them or after you've had them rejected, or suggestions on how to fix things. There's the Wayfarer discussion Discord, there's the Pokemon Professor Network Discord, there's the official forums, there's Reddit, maybe not Reddit. Twitter, X, Instagram. Jamal and I's DMs are always open for anybody who wants help. It's
Agent X on TikTok.
Agent X on TikTok. There are so many people out there who are very knowledgeable and more than willing to help you with your nominations or anything that you want to get fixed in your area, right? So engage with your local community. Reach out to your local community in your Pogo group or your Ingress group and kind of collaborate with the people who are around you.
And talk to them about the things on the map and talk to them about your plan. So you guys all know I'm pretty active in my community. And when I'm planning to do kind of a bigger build, I'll enlist the help or at least let people know who I believe play in that area that, hey, I'm going to do this. More so for me, because I'm a little bit weird, like just kind of, hey, get out of my way. Nobody touched this park for like a week. Just kind of let me go in and do my thing. But we've got a local Wayfarer Discord here in Charlotte, and there's one for the Greater Carolinas. And if you are a wayfaring person, start up a Discord in your area. You know, it doesn't have to be everybody in there, but if you know there's some active people in there, start up a Discord. That's a good way to get people in. And it's just a good way to let people know the areas you're working so you don't kind of step over and accidentally snake each other.
Yep. Or ask your local and community ambassador in Pogo to create a Wayfarer channel in Campfire.
Campfire. That's one that we didn't talk about. You know, We don't use campfire enough for the show. We
Mm.
probably should. We have a campfire. It's in the Pokemon Professor Network. It's a thread in there. So we probably should do a little bit more of that. I haven't even looked at it in a long time. I don't know if anybody's left a
Me neither.
message or not. I honestly have not. We'll have to kind of go and do that.
Yeah.
All right,
We'll get
let's
better
go to
about
the we'll go to the next one.
Number 8.
Avoid common mistakes in nominations. So I wrote a whole article about this. There's a whole thread on the forums about this, and we did a whole video on this. Familiarize yourself with common mistakes that lead to rejections, such as nominating points on school grounds or private property, using poor quality photos, or failing to provide enough information in titles and descriptions. So where you can nominate stuff is a huge thing that people get wrong. They try and nominate things that are eligible. Just because it meets some of the eligibility criteria doesn't mean that it doesn't also meet some of the rejection criteria, right?
Right.
Make sure your photos are good. Make sure your information is good. And if it's like a restaurant or a barbershop or something that's kind of typical that might get denied easier than something else, like it's not a slam dunk, make sure you're putting as much information into your nominations as possible. We'll link my article and the thread to the forum and the episode that we did in the show notes, so you guys can go ahead and go read that. That post in the forum gets linked at least once or twice a week.
It sure does. Yeah,
I get a notification in my on the forum page that someone has linked it. So
you're like,
I really appreciate
again?
the embos throwing that at people. It's good.
I know, right? People, that was a great article you wrote. I remember talking about that, and I'm like, man, this guy like nailed it. I'm like, there's a reason why he's a professor. There's a reason why. There's a reason why you're on the show. You're a professor, and that fits perfectly when it comes to back to school knowledge. All right, let's move on to the next one.
Number 7.
I may be having more fun with the numbers than anything else. All right. Beware of the interaction radius rules. All right. So when nominating a Wayspot, Daxie said Waystop, but Wayspot. Okay. Anyways, when nominating a Wayspot, consider its proximity to emergency services like fire stations or hospitals or police stations or jails or prisons. Anyway, okay. There are strict rules regarding how close a Wayspot can be to these locations. God, I don't even want to say this. Typically 80 meters. Now, where I got that number, I did a lot of research, and just about everywhere referenced something roughly 80 meters. I don't know if that's 80 meters is kind of big when you're talking about like a fire station. That could be like almost a city block away, and I think you can have things closer than a city block. Anyhow. Ensure that your nomination complies with these guidelines. What's important there is, I don't remember the number of the episode, Chris, but it was a fire station banquet hall in Pennsylvania that Aquablast 64 brought up. And we talked about, does this block emergency services? It's connected to the fire station. The 80-meter radius covers the driveway of where the fire trucks drive in and out, but people clearly congregate there for weddings and other things. And we had a whole show on whether or not that blocks emergency services. I'd say rule to live by is just, if where the pin is located, if you were standing there interacting with it, whether you're hacking the portal, spinning the stop, fighting the gym, doing a raid, if you can physically see the area where the fire people, the police people, the trucks, the cars have to come out, and you've got to move to allow them to do their job, then it's probably blocking emergency services. Now, that's probably the loosest translation. Other people might say if it's anywhere near, but like if it's like the plaque on the fire station that's right in front of the door, that's blocking emergency services. So that's kind of the rule I think about when I'm nominating. And that's kind of the rule I think about when I'm reviewing, is if you have to move from playing the game to allow them to do their job, then you're probably blocking emergency services. And that goes for ambulances also. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I think you nailed it. The interaction radius is something that not a lot of people think about when they're doing nominations. They just kind of think, oh, it's off to the side, I'm good. But you need to understand that in Pogo, it's 80 meters. So 80 meters away, anything 80 meters in that circle could potentially block emergency services. So you really need to be mindful of where you're placing pins and where objects are. Like I've had a couple removed that were 60 meters away from a firehouse, but it's technically on firehouse property, and that circle interacted the exit for the fire trucks. So like if the potential is there, sorry, like it doesn't matter if 90% of it is okay, 10% of it isn't, then it's that 10% that could possibly block a fire truck from leaving and could end up Niantic in a lawsuit. And that's kind of what they're trying to avoid here, right?
Or somebody getting hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
Or somebody getting hurt. Yep. So real world situation, Chris. Oh, I think you guys will all be proud of me. I removed something. I did it. So there was a POI that was on school grounds. So this fits right into beware of the interaction radius. This was something that was on school grounds. Now, it was on the corner of school grounds, but the 80 meters clearly went damn near to the front door of the school. Chris, I showed it to you. You saw it. Trainer Mystic brought it to our attention. Well, he didn't really bring it to our attention, but we were looking for some things in his area, and we looked at this, and we're like, he's like, actually, that's not there. So one, it wasn't there. Two, the pin was on school grounds. It was really at the edge. Someone could have made the argument that it was barely on school grounds, but that interaction radius put it clearly on school grounds. So it's not just fire stations. It's not just hospitals. It's not just police stations. It's also K-12. So you need to make sure you keep that in mind when you're reviewing and you're nominating.
Yeah, exactly. And those school ground ones, it doesn't matter necessarily that the interaction, if it's physically on school grounds, it's no bueno, right?
Yep,
so
no bueno, and not at all.
Yeah, and I'm proud of you for removing that one.
Yes, I removed it. Everybody was checking to see if I was going to do it. I'm like, come on, people, I did it. I removed it.
I was halfway through do it, and you're like, oh, I'm going to do that tomorrow. And I'm like, ooh,
yeah,
I'm going to back off.
And then I got the email. It's like, it's been removed. I looked on the map, and so there's going to be some people that are going to be going, what? Because it wasn't a gym in Pogo. It was just a stop in Pogo. But in Ingress, it looked like it was a pretty significant anchor portal. So there was links coming from that, which is one reason why it should be removed. You shouldn't be playing Ingress at a K-12. So it's gone. So I was pretty proud of myself. All right, moving right along.
Number 6.
Use your supporting photos wisely. Your supporting photo should complement your primary photo by providing additional context about the location. It should be taken from a wider angle to help reviewers understand where the point of interest is situated in relation to other landmarks. This is a big one. This is a big one that a lot of people get wrong. They just they take a picture of the main photo, they turn around, and they just take another picture. It's like, what are you doing?
That drives me crazy.
Oh, it drives me absolutely nuts. So your supporting photo needs to have the point of interest that you're nominating in it. Like it has to, right? And if you can include other way spots in the area in your supporting photo, like off to the side, then you're guaranteeing yourself that people will be like, I get it. Because then you can say in your supporting info, here's in the supporting photo, and you can see this way spot, it's on the map. And when they're doing reviews, they can look at the nearby, right? That comes up to check for duplicates. You can also use that and say, hey, in relation to where that playground is, I see the sign. Now, yes, I believe you that it's there, right?
Right.
So you got to use that supporting photo wisely.
Yep, absolutely. I believe we did a whole show. This is a lot of repetition. We did a whole show on supporting photos, and that's one of those things that every now and then we need to do a refresher. We don't want to just rehash everything that we've done because, some listeners have been with us since day one and they've heard it, but this might be the first episode of the Wayspotters podcast that some people listen to. So periodically we'll go back and do a quick review. So I agree with that, Chris. I that's one of the things that I have gotten more creative with when it comes to supporting photos. And there was a thing on the forums the other day about photo collages, and I love photo collages. And there was a few people that aren't so fond of photo collages, and they were taking me on, and I was giving it right back to them. But I love photo collages. I think it's a good way to kind of show that wider range depending on what you want to do. I like to do photo collages in kind of threes. Now that the photo, and I did a lot of those, quite honestly, when the photo photo spheres went away,
Yeah.
and you could no longer do one and attach it. So I was like, let me do a collage and create kind of my own photosphere. So I love them. Some people don't, but I like. All right, let's move on to the next one.
Number 5.
So provide supporting information in addition to your title and description, including supporting information that adds context to your submission. Explain the location and how it fits into one of Niantic's 3 pillars: exploration, exercise, or socialization. So we also had a whole show on whether or not you needed to sell your nominations. And I think we agreed that you probably do. And then Emily came along and started taking a lot of those. And we don't really know what criteria Emily's, if she's just looking at the picture, if she's reading the description, we don't know. We can infer and we can guess, but we really don't know. But I would encourage everyone not to become lazy or complacent, and to remain diligent and do the right thing with your supporting information, and really put in there how it fits into the game and why you're nominating it. If you're nominating a rest area, if you're nominating a playground, in your supporting information, talk about which one of the pillars that it really fits, so the reviewer can kind of understand the shoes that you're in, and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Number 4.
Write descriptive titles and descriptions. Your title and description should be informative and engaging. Avoid generic titles like park or statue. Instead, provide specific names and interesting facts about the location to enhance its appeal to reviewers. This is another big one. So, it's not necessarily like required for your description to be engaging, but it helps. Like, if it drives me nuts when I walk up to a park and it's like park, playground,
right.
sign,
Yeah,
thing, object, me likey, like yes. For park descriptions, I like to include all of the amenities that are in that park. So like, this is a park in Oshawa. It's got 2 playgrounds, a soccer field, a baseball field, and plenty of room to run and play. That way people can, and I've said this before, people can click on that park in the game from far away and say, "Oh, it's got all of these things in it. I'm going to go explore that park." Or if it's a mural or a painting, find the artist, credit the artist, find the real title. Don't just say mural painted by person, right? Describe the mural. Say how it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, it's on this wall of this building. It's as much detailing you can get in there, the better your chances of getting it approved are.
And not just that, Chris, but the real why behind it is the reason why we're doing this. We're creating points of interest that are not only going to be in the Niantic games that we play, but on the Lightship map that could have bigger implications. We don't know what Niantic's going to use this information for in the future. But the more descriptive you can be, the better the data will be able to be used in the future. So that's something that's pretty important. And you know me, I like to be a little humorous and a little funny and kind of give a colorful description. But, when someone reads it, I want them to kind of chuckle and go, okay, all right, that was good. Something along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the same way.
Number 3.
Okay, this is a big one. Take quality photos. A clear, well-composed photo, the primary photo, is crucial. It's crucial for your nomination success. Ensure that your photo captures the entire point of interest without any obstructions like trees or vehicles. Avoid using third-party images or photos that have been overly edited. All right, so now this one, Chris, it's ironic that I set this one up for myself because I get a lot of heat and a lot of criticism on this one from a lot of people, especially when we were in New York. That one picture I took. So I have let me just explain what I'm talking about here. When I take a picture of a POI, people are like, "Why do you have all this stuff in it? Get a nice tight picture of it." The way that I like to look, at the POI is, I know we have a supporting photo. But in my main photo, I don't want just this tight. I want kind of a broad picture. So if someone is playing the game and they're not right there and they see it from across the way, they can kind of get a good idea of where it is or what it is. I've never been the person to take this really tight picture up close. There's always a little bit on top and on the bottom and on the left and on the right to kind of give the person who's seeing it or spinning it or interacting with it a little more. So I get a lot of heat for putting a little more in there. So when I look at take a quality photo to me may be different than a quality photo to you or quality photo to Sarah Amanda. So my guidance on this is do what you think is going to benefit the person looking at the picture the best. Tomato, potato. I like to think of it as if it's me and I've never been in the area. I don't want just this really tight crop thing up on the plaque. I'd love to see the building it's on too, to give me a little bit of context. Now, completely understanding you might feel the complete opposite of me, but I don't think either one of us would be wrong.
No, 100%. Your photo is the first thing that people look at. They're looking at your nomination, right? So if your photo is not good, it's blurry, it's got your finger in it, it's got too much sky or too much whatever, right? And it's too far away from the point of interest, people are going to immediately have a negative feeling about your nomination.
Right.
And they're going to look at everything else more skeptically than they would have had your photo been good, right? So beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So keep that in mind when you are framing your photos.
Number 2.
Review the Wayfarer criteria page. The Wayfarer criteria page is an essential resource for anyone looking to submit nominations. It outlines what makes a good nomination and provides examples of both acceptable and unacceptable submissions. Reviewing this page can help reduce the number of rejected submissions. This is a good one. Go and check the criteria pages, and then there's that criteria clarification page in the forums that you should also go check, because that changes. I don't want to say constantly, but it changes from time to time, right? And you need to make sure that you're going out and finding things that are eligible. That's step one, right? Is it eligible, or is it like it's? You could do everything right. If your nomination isn't eligible, it's not going to get through, right? So, or shouldn't get through. So reviewing that criteria page often is probably one of the biggest tips that we could give you.
We've had things that we've looked at for Cole of the Week, and we're like, that's a great picture, and that's a great supporting picture. Too bad it's not eligible, but somebody did a really good job with the picture.
But you nailed this nomination of this ineligible object.
Exactly. Now, in years past, Chris, this would have been something where we would have put the guidance, make sure you keep up to date with the AMAs, you know, because they'll say something in the AMAs that'll change that. Yeah, they have. Well, but now that they have the forum and they have the criteria page, they just make an update to the criteria. It's like the one they did, was it back in April, May, March, February? I don't remember when they updated the criteria. But they updated the criteria, and that kind of superseded the need for an AMA. And I don't know if we'll have an AMA anymore, because they can just put something out on the forum that'll take its place. So, but yeah, that's a great suggestion, Chris. And I think people can reduce their frustrations by making sure they stay up to date.
Yeah.
All right. And number 1.
Number 1.
Understanding eligibility criteria. So before submitting a Wayspot, familiarize yourself with the eligibility criteria set by Niantic. Only locations that fall into specific categories, such as places for exploration, exercise, or social interaction, are eligible. Hint, hint, we're going to get into this a little more on topic number 2. For example, a public park, unique art installation, and community centers will qualify, while private residences and temporary structures do not. So we don't want to get into that too much, because we're going to talk about that here on topic number 2, but making sure that you are up to date with what is, I'm going to say it, Chris. I like to think of it this way. If I know what is not eligible, that's a lot easier than trying to keep track of what is eligible. If I know single family private residences are not eligible, K-12 is not eligible, a military base is not eligible in itself, a hospital emergency room entrance where where the ambulance pulls up and picks up and drops off patients. Those are not eligible. If I know what I should not be nominating and what I should not be giving positive thumbs up to when I'm reviewing, that's going to make me a better wayfinder than trying to think, is this eligible? Then you can get into things like subjective things. So Sea Princess and I and you and a few other people were, kind of going back and forth about that little free library that was a converted like mailbox that was like leaned up against a tree, where a little free library in itself is eligible. However, if it's not firmly submitted into the ground and it's not really a little free library, somebody just put the sticker on there, it's not eligible. There's always going to be those gray areas in that nuance. But for the most part, if you stick to the big things and know what's not eligible, then you're going to be better off than you're not. Would you agree with that?
I completely agree. Agree. Right. There's a lot of nuance in Wayfarer. And just because people say little free libraries are eligible doesn't mean that they're all eligible.
Right. Absolutely.
Because like Sea Princess said, if you can put 2 books in a mailbox, that does not make a little free library. I'm sorry.
Right. It really doesn't. It really doesn't.
No, it doesn't serve the purpose of a little free library.
Yep. So, Chris, now that your kids are back in school and my kids are back in school, topic number 2, I want to call it look twice before crossing the road. So we've kind of done our top 10 things that wayfinders should kind of refamiliarize themselves with. So let's get into topic number 2.
Hi, it's Little Pound Cake. Don't forget about topic number 2.
So, Chris, I want to dive into this headlong while we're in class, and I feel really comfortable, like I said, because I'm with the professor. You are the professor. So, when we talk about learning what is eligible versus what's not eligible, there's really Wayfarer in itself is pretty easy. Nuance makes it complicated, but there's 3 things: a great place for exploration, a great place for exercise, and a great place to be social with others. At the end of the day, that's what we're all doing here. Would you agree with that?
Completely agree.
All right. So, Chris, professor, I've got my notepad here. Will you take the first one, read it, and then tell us the professor's take on it?
A great place for exploration. There are locations that encourage exploration and discovery. This can include parks, hiking trails, biking trails, exercise equipment in public places, and more. This is things that make you get up off the couch and go. Things that make you get out into the world. Trail markers are a good one because they're on hiking trails because they get you to go out there. Biking trails, exercise equipment, art, any installation. So there was a art installation down by the lake here in Oshawa that was super popular. They just took a bunch of murals up. Someone did a bunch of paintings all in a row down at the park. It was only temporary, and people went down there, and there was lots of people going down there. So that's people getting out and exploring that art, that mural that's on that building, that statue that's in your park. Anything that gets you kind of maybe off the beaten path, makes you go somewhere that you normally wouldn't. And that's the whole point of the whole database, is to get you to go look at places, go explore and interact with your community in a way that you might not know before, right? Plattsburgh with all of their historical plaques. Like, you could walk around that whole town. It'd take you 3 days to look at every single one of the plaques there. That's a good way to explore your city, right? So great place for exploration. That's a huge one.
And for me, I echo everything you said. For me, this hit home, not this summer, but last summer, the first Go Fest in New York. One of the POIs was the obelisk in Central Park. And I'm like, This thing came from Egypt, like 4,000 years ago. Yeah. Like, if that's not a great thing to explore, and I watch a whole lot of History Channel, I watch a whole lot of Discovery Channel, and it's one of those things that it's funny that there's more Egyptian memorabilia in British museums than there is in Egypt. That's a whole nother podcast. That's a whole nother podcast for us to talk about to my friends over there across the pond. However, I digress. That obelisk could have been touched by a pharaoh, probably was
Mhm.
touched by a pharaoh or somebody that we read about in a history book, and it's in the middle of New York City in Central Park.
Mhm.
I nudged the group to walk that way because I wanted to go see it.
Yep.
When am I don't know if I'm ever going to get to Egypt. Someday, hopefully I will, but I got to see a piece of antiquity. And it was because of this game that brought me to New York City, that took me to Central Park to get to see that. I would say that's a great place for exploration. Everyone was taking pictures of it. Everybody was taking pictures in front of it. I mean, the thing is 4,000 years old, and I don't think we could build it again today with the materials they had. Again, that's a whole nother podcast. But for me, that was a fantastic point of interest that needs to be on the Lightship map.
No, 100%, 100%. And then, go back to the old joke. The only reason that the pyramids are still in Egypt is because the British couldn't get them back to England.
Yeah, that's so good. That is so good. And it's true. Yeah, if they could figure out how to pick them up, they would have had them on a boat. All right, we'll move on to the next one. A great place for exercise. This category includes areas designed for physical activity and health promotion, such as parks and plazas, gardens, forests, sports arenas, and fields. This one is really cool. So you guys all know I've talked about my park, and I've put about every point of interest in the park in the game. The baseball fields, the soccer fields, the trail markers, the plazas, everything in the park that is somewhere where you would go. Probably my biggest claim to fame that I love is the one that got denied like 6 times, the big white arrow. It's literally a ginormous arrow that's pointing you down a trail, like go this way. If it was if real life was a video game, you'd click on it and it'd give you some special mission or something. But great places for exercise would be trails, hiking trails, biking trails, up the side of a mountain, paths in a mall. Like I don't know if in the malls in your area, but the malls in my area have like a different colored tile down one side, and it's like the walking path, and they'll have it like 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, 1.0 around the mall. So as you're walking, you kind of know how much you've walked. I don't know if the malls in your area have that where they have like the walking lane. But that's a great place for exercise. And then you think of like a track, like out around like a football field or a soccer field, tracks like that. So anywhere that is designed for you to get active. And I like to look at it, Chris, as it's not the traditional activities. It can be anything that gets you moving faster than your normal walk, or gets the heart pumping, or gets you to kind of climb over something, dive under something, all those things like that. So that's kind of the place for exercise to me.
No, 100%. Absolutely. Great places to exercise kind of goes in with the great places to explore too, right? Like a lot of them go hand in hand. There's the park down by my area. There's about 15 fitness stations in that park. Mm-hmm. I was down there with the kids the other day, and 8 of them weren't in the game, right? Weren't on the Lightship map, so I nominated all of them. Emily approved 3 of them and then duplicated the other 6 for some reason, so whatever. But yeah, it's great places to exercise. It goes in with Niantic's kind of core pillars is getting out and going and leading that kind of healthy lifestyle. So this is another good one.
Right. I'm with you. All right. And then the last one in this section is a great place to be social with others. Actually, why don't you take this one, Chris?
There are gathering spots where people can socialize and share experiences. Examples include pavilions, post offices, gaming stores, libraries, little free libraries, parks with fountains or water features, famous transit stations, popular restaurants, and coffee shops. This is another great one, like a place where you can sit with one person, 6 people, 20 people, and socialize. So you can have that conversation with your friend. You can sit and enjoy the company of other people. You can go and sit and play Niantic's games with other people. These are great places to be social with others. And this is, again, another one of Niantic's core pillars is getting people out into the community and exploring, exercising, and being social with others, right?
Right.
And it's so important because humans are social animals, right? And not everybody has that kind of social battery. Like not everybody likes to be social with others, when that's fine.
Right.
But it's important that we're going out there and we're nominating these things so that people can find these spots and say, hey, I didn't know that this restaurant did all of these things for the community, or I didn't know that that library has these programs for these kids, right? So you can go out there and you can discover these places through the White Chip map and through the games that Niantic provides.
Real world example, when we were in New York for GoFest, we were in Washington Square Park. Remember, we were there and there was all of the little like street vendors and other things that were going on. And there was all these people being social. We're there dorking out with our phones. And I remember Matty G was playing Monster Hunter Now, and I'm looking over his shoulder going, I still don't understand what the heck you're doing. But, you know, and then you called me or you sent me a text. You were like, hey, where are you? And I'm like, oh, we're over here. And we had kind of gotten like kind of split up. But it was a great example of there was multiple people using this public space for a lot of things. Everybody was being social in some way or another, whether they were connecting digitally or they were connecting in person or they were buying something from a vendor. Or I remember there was somebody that was sitting over by where I was that was juggling and doing something that I don't have enough talent or dexterity to do. But that's a great place to be on the map because there's a lot going on. New York City is kind of its own animal, but we have places like that in Charlotte. They just might not have like 40,000 people in a 1 square block area, but there's people in there doing that. So that's just kind of that real world example.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to wrap it up, as we go back to school, it's always good, I don't know, quarterly, semi-annually, to kind of make sure you kind of brush up on what's currently going on in the game. Because we can all get in our own little silos, Chris, to where we think we know what's going on. And if you've been away from the forums and the criteria for a while, you might not know or understand what's going on. And like it or not, things go in waves. Right now, neighborhood signs are hot. Everybody in the world who has a neighborhood sign is nominating it, and it's going through. Now, that might change. I remember a time when they never went through. I tried to get my neighborhood sign for months, and it never went through. But the current wave is they're going through. So if you're going to be a Wayfinder, stay current with what's going on in order to get your stuff through, but not only that, but to keep your rating high and your agreements up. Because if you're voting something down right now that's hot, then that's going to affect your agreements. Not that upgrades are super important right now, and that's again a whole nother show. Because I've never had 11 upgrades, Chris, for longer than like a minute, but I've got 11 upgrades and I don't have anything to use them on because Emily is taking everything through. So, you know, upgrade points are not as important to me right now. But what is important to me is keeping my rating high and making sure that I am doing equal justice to people who are nominating and making sure they're getting the fairest take, just like I want the fairest take given to me when I nominate something.
Yep. Absolutely. Speaking of Emily, I just got a notification that she accepted 2 of my nominations from yesterday. So.
There you go. There you go. Emily's working hard. We gotta get her some kind of gift or something.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. You know what we need to do? We need to design an Emily Wayspotters podcast T-shirt. Put some merch on there.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right. Let's switch gears here. And the last 2 one's got to go, Chris, have sparked a little bit of controversy. So
this one's going to as well.
This one's going to as well. So, Chris, I think this is going to spark a little bit of controversy as well. But we don't have a sponsor for this segment just yet. But we do have a jingle. So we're going to debut the jingle now, and you can all let us know what you think.
One's gotta go. One gotta go. One gotta go, y'all. One gotta go. Wait, one gotta go. Yeah, this one gotta go. One's gotta go. One's gotta go. One's gotta go. One gotta go. 4 items to be on the list, but one gotta go.
What do you think?
I love that. That's the first time I've listened to it with the headphones. And,
Yeah.
oh man, that's cool. That is.
You
cool.
like
You
how I
really
did
jumped on
the alternating ears? Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and bring this up on the screen. I spend way too much time dinking around with stuff like that. All right. So one's got to go for this week. This is going to be a good one for Chris. So you have to be of a certain age to kind of really understand and internalize the 4 things on the screen. So the theme for this week is Cartoon Kid Sons Edition. So in the upper left-hand corner, we've got Bobby Hill. In the upper left-hand corner, we've got Bobby Hill. In the lower left-hand corner, we've got Bart Simpson. In the upper right-hand corner, we have Stewie Griffin. And in the bottom right-hand corner, we have Stan Marsh. So King of the Hill, The Simpsons, Family Guy, and South Park. So Chris, walk us through your thoughts and let us know one's got to go.
Oof. I absolutely love South Park. So Stan's gonna stay. That's number one.
Well, let me jump here and say this. I consulted with my daughter Addison, who's 15, on which South Park character to use. I originally was going to do another one, and she's like, "No, Stan is the guy. He's the star of the show. Everyone might think Cartman is there. Cartman is more of the comic relief. She's like, Stan is the mainstay. So that's why I picked Stan. So all right, continue.
Oh, you nailed that one. You nailed it. You can't get rid of Bart. Like you just can't. Right? It's the longest running cartoon. I think it's the longest running TV show. Yeah, you just can't get rid of Bart.
Yeah, I think it is the longest running TV show.
Stewie is quite possibly my favorite of the 4. Just because I think Stewie's absolutely hilarious. From his trying to take over the world to him trying to kill Lois all the time, and his antics with Brian, and some of the off-color jokes that they throw in for him that you just. First of all, I can't believe they get rid of those jokes. I can't get away with those jokes.
I know.
I can't believe that they make the baby say them, which is
Well, that's why they do it, because the baby can get away with it.
It's so good. So that, I mean, unfortunately for Bobby Hill, I've never really been a big fan of Bobby Hill or King of the Hill in general. So for me, Bobby's got to go.
Okay, so Bobby's got to go. All right, so I think I agree with you. Bart's kind of the GOAT. If you don't have Bart, you don't have any of these other ones, right? Some of the writers from The Simpsons are on these other shows, so that just shows kind of the lineage there. I'll tell you why Stewie is my favorite, because Stewie is the catalyst for another One's Got to Go that we're going to do that I don't think we've done. Cartoon Dogs. We haven't done Cartoon Dogs, have we?
No.
Okay. Stewie brought us to the world Brian. Brian the dog not only talks, he drives, he dates humans. Like, I've got a whole nother one I'm working on for Cartoon Dogs. So Stewie's got to stay for that. South Park probably gets away with more off-color jokes than Stewie does. If you think about, like, just think about all the shenanigans Cartman gets up to, right? Just everything, and Randy and everybody. Bart's the GOAT. So I gotta agree with you. When I originally put this together, I'm like, no, Bobby Hill is that innocent child in all of us. Like, growing up, we all had a little bit of Bobby Hill in us, where we were just naive and we really thought this, and his old man is this like weird conservative guy that drinks beer and he loves Texas, like most Texans do. No, like all Texans do. All Texans. He loves Texas. And Bobby Hill will probably grow up to be Hank someday, but right now he's this kind of innocent kid that doesn't really know a lot about life. And I was thinking maybe he's got to stay, because maybe Bobby Hill is the hope for the world, where the rest of these people on this list, there's no hope for him. There's no redeeming Bart. Bart's that punk kid that is going to grow up to be the punk teenager who's going to, and Stan is somewhat innocent, but the group he runs with, like, he's not going anywhere. And then Stewie, if Stewie doesn't take over the world someday, he's going to destroy it. One or the other.
Yep.
Right. One or the other. And where he got his accent from, having his parents, I still don't know. And he either wants to kill Lois or do something very different with Lois, but there's something going on there. So I think I agree with you. But out there, everybody listening and everybody watching, you guys love this segment. So we get more interaction about One's Gotta Go than almost anything else. So let us know what your One's Gotta Go is, and we'd love to hear it. And we'll keep doing this as long as you guys keep loving on it. So
absolutely.
All right, you ready to run the break?
I am, man. I am.
All right, we're going to run the break. We're going to play some dad jokes, which may or may not be related to school or teachers or books or something. And we'll hit the music, and we'll see you on the other side.
Are you serious? This again? It's season 3.
Why was school way easier for cave people? Because they didn't have a whole lot of history to study. What kind of candy do you normally find at school? Nerds and Smarties, of course. A man from Los Angeles drove towards New York at 250 miles per hour. A man from New York drove towards Los Angeles at 125 miles per hour. Where did they meet up? Prison. Yep, they met up in prison. Why did the dog do so well in school? Because he was the teacher's pet. On the first day of school, what did the pencil sharpener say to the pencil? Hey, buddy, will you stop going around in circles and get to the point? The teacher asked Tommy, hey, Tommy, can you tell us where the Declaration of Independence was signed? Tommy replied, at the bottom. All right, everybody, welcome back to episode number 137 of the Wayspotters podcast. You have Jamal and Chris here, and we are doing our back to school edition. Hope you enjoy topic number 1 and 2, as well as One's Gotta Go. But right now, we're going to jump headlong into...
Let's take a look at a beautiful example of what the Wayspotters podcast thinks you should be nominating. We proudly present the Wayspot of the Week.
A little throwback there for you, Chris. How about that? Throwback to the AI voice. So I'll take the first one. I'll take the first one. So this one comes to us from CW Nutrition in the Wayfarer discussion Discord. And this one is called We Love Conroy Mural. And it's from Conroy, Texas. So maybe a little foreshadowing that said Texans love Texas, because of course they do. And of course Conroy's in Texas. And of course they love it because they're Texans. Shout out to all of our Texas people.
No state loves itself more than Texas does.
No, they really don't. They really don't. They Texas loves Texas like North Carolinians love barbecue. Like, yeah, Texans love them from Texas. So shout out to Dallas, Fort Worth. Shout out to Houston. Shout out to Austin. Shout out to Abilene and all of the other cities that listen to us in force. We love you guys. So we are still going to do that Texas episode, specifically the DFW episode. It's coming. But we're here to talk about Wayspot of the Week. So what you're looking at here, for those of you who are not watching us on YouTube, it's the side of a building. And it's a mural. Surprise, surprise. Jamal's got a mural for Wayspot of the Week. And it looks like it's really cool. It's a white background, and it says "We Love Conroy," and it's in like bubble letters, and there's decorations inside of each letter, which makes it look really like unique. But the really cool thing is there's a hand pulling back a curtain. And it looks like the We Love Conroy is coming out of from behind the curtain. So it's pulling back the curtain, and there's some blue paint there, and then the big heart, and then the We Love. And it's like they're like unveiling it. Unique hand painted I Love Conroy mural on the side of the Ferris Realty building here in Conroy, Texas. So I think this is really cool. I appreciate it. I get it. I think this is a good one for Wayspot of the Week.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's a gorgeous mural, and it's so immersive too, with the hand pulling back the wall. It just looks so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's go over to let's hear from Little Pound Cake.
Hey, it's Little Pound Cake. The Wayspotters think you should be nominating more stuff like this.
This one comes to us from Wayfarer ambassador and friend of the show, Elf from Space, in the Pokemon Professor Network Discord, and it is called Meadow Play Area. And it is a play area. It's got a couple of rocks in the foreground and a log that's had 2 tunnels cut out of it, so you can crawl underneath it. And then there's some tree stumps in the back that are probably like 6-7 feet tall for you to run down. One of them's got it looks like 2 of the roots are kind of exposed, so you can run underneath it. Behind that, it looks like a forest, and it looks like there's a path going out the middle, so you can go off a path.
It does.
This is a really neat little play area. This photo is beautiful too. The description is playground made of natural objects, including rocks and trees, that is part of the Forest Park Natural Play Area. Natural play areas encourage better balance with nature and getting kids in touch with their world by fostering playing and getting to know the environment. That's a fantastic description.
It really is.
Back to school? Damn.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. It's almost like we plan these shows. It's so cool because it says exactly what it is. And it's different from a playground where it's like a slide and swings. This is like getting kids to like their inner kind of, go play with nature, have fun, get all the exercise you would on this other man-made equipment. But this is like using the area around you. So I love it. This is really, really cool. Very cool.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
All right. Let's talk about something that is not fantastic, like not even in the least.
I've been working on the Wayfarer all the live long day. I've been working on the Wayfarer just to pass the... Oh no. Hey, Jamal, I found some coal.
All right. Wayspot of the Week. So this one comes from me. Well, it doesn't come from me, but I found it. All right, Chris. Let me set this up. All right. So on the Wayfarer forums, people will post things like, help me with this nomination. I don't understand why this was rejected. I don't understand why this wasn't removed. And then, the question is, show me a picture. We can help you with it. We'll look at this. We'll look at the S2 cell. We'll do all these things. So there's been a person, and I don't want to out them because I don't know them. I've never talked to them. I've never even tried to reach out to them. But there's a person on the forum that over time has posted a lot of things that are iffy at best and downright abusive at worst. So this is one of those that I think is I think this person either is trolling or they really don't know after months and months of people telling them don't do things like this. So this Call of the Week, I'll give you the title. Okay. I'll give you the title. Private Home Playground. Okay. That's the title. And the description is play area where it's fun. All right. So now you're probably thinking, why would somebody call something private home play area? That's going to get denied just on the title. Yes, it is. The picture's even worse, people. All right. So what you're looking at is clearly, 100% clearly, somebody's backyard. Because you can see the other houses in the background. This is clearly in somebody's backyard. And it's a swing and a little portable little slide like for a little 3-year-old kid and some other like little playground things in the background. But you can tell this is not at a park. This is clearly smack dab in the middle of someone's backyard. Now, there was a little more information on the forum, including the address. And I didn't want to dox anybody because that's not the goal of this. This is not to poke fun or make anybody feel bad. So some of the other things on there would have shown where this was, and I didn't want to do that. But as we are talking about educational things, this is an education of what not to do. Do not nominate something in your backyard or somebody else's backyard and try to pass it off as a park. Now, Chris, if I'm being honest, they didn't try to pass it off as a park. They clearly said private home playground, right? So they weren't even trying to be sneaky.
No. I think it's either someone trolling or someone who just fully does not understand the rules of Wayfarer, and they were just like, oh, I've seen playgrounds, I have a playground,
right?
And like I'm almost positive that they moved that slide to that position for that photo,
because that's way too close to be functional where it is right there.
Exactly.
Now the person using this account has also posted a pile of rocks in front of their house. And also posted a one of those basketball hoops that you can move from one side of the cul-de-sac to the other, and a few other things that people have like, no, dude, don't do this, and then they continue to post it, which is why I thought maybe they're a troll or they're just persistent and thinking I'm going to sneak one of these through at some point. But clear indication of Cole, clear indication of what not to do as we're talking about, brushing up on the guidelines and brushing up on, best practices. Don't nominate something in your backyard. And, at least I'll say this, Chris, at least they weren't trying to be sneaky. They let everybody know it was in their backyard. So I guess you get points for that. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. All right. You got anything else?
Next week, I would like to do an episode on myth busting. So if you have any kind of things that you think that the Wayfarer community doesn't know, or things that you think that the Wayfarer community kind of gets wrong a lot, hit us up on Twitter, X, Instagram, DM us on TikTok, hit me up in the forums or the Discord, and let me know. I'm going to put that together for next week's show.
Ooh, which Mythbuster are you?
That's a good question. I'll have to think about that.
Got to figure that out. Yeah, we got to figure out which one we are. I think I know the one I want to be. Actually, I don't know. We'll figure that out. Yeah, we'll figure out which one are you or which one am I. Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for listening to this episode of the Wayspotters podcast. We want to give a special shout out to our executive producer, KatettheKonz. You rock as always. And if you guys are out there in the English space in the upper part of New York State, watch out for KatettheKonz. She's a force to be reckoned with. So I just got to put that out there. As well as all of our other patrons, we really appreciate you guys. You guys rock. We couldn't have this show if it wasn't for all the listeners and the patrons and all the people that support us. We really appreciate you. So again, thank you for listening. And if you want to support us and you want to interact with us, we're going to tell you all the ways that you can do this. Now, Chris, you're going to be proud of me. Look at this. Follow us on X. It's changed. You can follow us on X. We are at Wayspotters on X. So for those of you who are listening, when you go back later and watch the YouTube, it used to say follow us on Twitter on the screen, but now it says follow us on X. I didn't even have it say X, formerly known as Twitter. It's just X now. You can also follow us on Instagram. We are at Wayspotters Podcast. You will find the shorts and the dad jokes on Instagram. We are a couple of weeks behind on the dad jokes on Instagram and Facebook, and I apologize, but I'm going to have to re-download them and re-edit them with the new computer. But we will have the last couple of episodes of dad jokes up hopefully this Sunday with the new episode of dad jokes. So hang tight with us. We appreciate it. Like Chris said, you can hit us up on TikTok. We are at I Make Wayspots on TikTok. You can find most of the same content on TikTok as you can on Instagram. And soon, when life kind of settles down, we're going to have some exclusive TikToks that I think are pretty funny. I think you guys will enjoy them. So we are incredibly responsive with our listeners, and we love to interact with everybody. We really, really, really appreciate you guys. So secondly, you can go to our website, www.wayspotters.com. From there, you can get the links to everywhere you can download the show. You can also send us a message directly from the website, or you can shoot us an email at wayspotters@pokemonprofessor.com. Now, for those of you who are watching us on YouTube, you are the cool kids in the in crowd. You already know this. But for those of you listening to us on audio, you can go to youtube.com/@Wayspotters Podcast. And Chris?
Make sure you like the video, click subscribe, and click the bell to be notified whenever we post a new video.
Perfect. Now, for our American listeners or anyone who wants to dial an American phone number, you can leave us a voicemail on our hotline, 704-426-3710. You never know, your voicemail may appear on an upcoming episode of the show, or you can tweet us a message directly through X. I guess they don't tweet us a message anymore. What do they do? What do you do on Twitter now? Or on X now?
I think it's Zeet.
Is it Zeet?
I think it's Zeet.
Okay, you can Zeet us a message. That makes me think yeet us a message. All right, so finally, if you are not a member of the Pokemon Professor Network, you should be, and you can be, and it's really easy to join. You can join for as little as $1 US a month. All you need to do is go to www.patreon.com/Pokemon Professor. You will have access to the Discord for the entire family of shows across the Pokemon Professor Network, including Wayspotters, Special Conditions, Gotta Watch 'Em All, Purified Podcast, Good Morning Johto, Sleep It Off, and Lure It Up. Also coming to the network is a brand new podcast. Can we say it yet, Chris? Are we allowed to say the new podcast?
I think they're having one come out at the end of the month, so maybe let's wait until they post their first.
All right. There will be another podcast on the network. I don't want to spill the beans because I don't remember if we've officially launched it yet. But like Chris said, at the end of the month, you will hear a new podcast, and it's associated with us, so we want to welcome them. So last thing. On the podcatcher you're listening to us on right now, we would really love it if you went in and give us a rating. To me and to Chris, 5 stars are the best stars. But we want you to review us and give us the number that you think we deserved. Like I said, I think 5 stars are the best stars. But with that, we're going to get you back out to your Sunday or whatever day you were listening to the Wayspotters podcast. We really appreciate you. And remember, what's a few meters between friends?